I don't think you're very funny.
Well, they do. Thank you.
A nice gimmick, the dummy. What's his name?
You all have a great evening.
Fats.
You're listening to the Fun with Horror podcast with your hosts, Scotty and Andrew.
Well, hello, everybody. I'm Scotty.
And I'm Andrew.
And welcome to Fun with Horror, episode number 125 of Fun with Horror, to be exact. This is the movie review podcast in which two long-distance best friends stay in touch by giving each other horror movies to watch and discuss.
It was my pick last time, and I jumped all the way back to 1978, where we watched the movie Magic, which stars... Let me say who directed it first.
Oh, wait. Well, you can wait until after the break.
Oh, yeah. Okay, we'll just do that.
Let's just do that. It's magic, everybody. Magic.
It's Magic. Hi, buddy. I'm tired, so I screwed up our intro.
Of course, that's your cue.
Oh, of course. Oh, yeah, of course. Stay tuned. Yeah, well, it's we're recording in the morning, everybody. Stay tuned to the end of this episode where we get to hear what Scotty's picking for our next movie. But without further ado, hi.
This is crazy recording at 4:00 in the morning.
I know, man. My gosh.
My neighbors are knocking on the walls. They're like, hey, stop it.
Yeah. Yep. I've had the police over here 3 times already saying it's too loud. But they will be joining us later.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but when you opened the door, they said, wait, are you Andrew of Fun with Horror?
Yep. That's exactly right. That is exactly what happened. And then they just said, do whatever you need to do. And they told the neighbors to buzz off. So it was pretty nice.
Buzz off.
Yeah. They said other words, but we're not explicit.
Is that because your neighbors are just a hive of bees?
That's exactly right. And these were bee police officers.
Wow.
What a day.
Your life is a Pixar movie, my friend.
It really is.
I wish my life was a Pixar movie.
Yeah, it is. You do wish that.
My life is a 1980s Times Square XXX porn movie with heroin and cocaine.
Wow.
That's my life.
Oh, man, it sounds like the police went to the wrong house.
I need the mayor to clean this crap up.
Oh, my God. Boy, this episode, man, where are we going?
I don't know, but it's going to be wonderful.
It is.
We're going to follow the yellow brick road, everybody.
Oh, man. Yes, please.
Have you seen The Wizard of Oz?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's all. So before we get into anything else,
yes,
I just want to remind everybody that we have a Patreon.
Oh, yeah.
And we'd like to really quickly say thank you to all of our patrons for patronizing us.
It works.
There are patrons with horror.
Oh, I like it.
So if you'd like, go join the Fun with Horror. Did I say join right? Or did I join?
Join.
Join the Fun with Horror podcast Patreon. Please to join. Right?
Yeah, let's go with it, man.
Please to join. And you get exclusive content.
There you go. Wow.
Which we don't have a lot of yet. We have one exclusive episode.
Mm-hmm.
But that's going to change very soon.
Ooh.
You know why?
Why?
Well, because we've been busy. Like, we've been releasing weekly episodes for a little bit.
That's true.
Because last episode, we had our friends Chuddle the Pod on.
Yay. Thank you, Chuddle, for jumping on and taking my place.
Forever.
No, thank you. That's very, very kind. That's awesome that they were on Fun with Horror, man. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Lucky us.
And my mic wasn't plugged in, which happens when we have guests, evidently. Because the last time that happened was when the Gory Gays came on for our Christmas episode.
But I feel like you should tell the story of how you figured it out, because I think that's funny.
Okay,
I think
yeah,
it's funny.
So we went the whole episode, and I thought everything was great. In fact, I even whispered a few things into the mic during the episode for dramatic effect. And then after we finished, I'm sitting there talking to Brian and Sam, and we're just chatting about podcast stuff, and I'm saying, hey, you know what really sucks? A bunch of times, a handful of times, I have forgotten to plug my mic in, and right as I said that, I looked down, and my heart literally just dropped. Not literally, figuratively, just dropped. And I realized my mic had not been plugged in the entire episode. And it sucks because it's one thing to do it when you and I record, which hasn't happened in quite a while, to be honest.
Did you check it just now?
I've been checking it like nonstop.
Good.
Every 10 seconds, basically, I look down to make sure that little green light is blinking.
Good, yeah.
But it really, I feel unprofessional. I feel a little embarrassed when I do it when we have guests on, because I want their episode to sound fantastic. And they did. Now, let me just say, Chuddle the Pod sounded fantastic.
Good, yeah. Yep.
Brian, Sam, Ross, you guys were wonderful. And I loved our discussion. And they sounded great. I did not, however. And you know me, buddy. You know me. I'm a perfectionist.
I do know that, yeah. But maybe we tell people, we'll just cut all this out and tell people you did it on purpose to highlight how great they are. And you're taking one for the team. Like, that's a sacrifice. What a hero. What a hero.
Okay, so I'm going to edit all that out that we just said.
Yep.
So last week, I absolutely, wink, wink, forgot to plug in my mic.
What?
And holy crap, Chuddle the Pod sounded so good compared to me.
Wow. What a sacrifice. You are a hero, sir. Boy, I really hope you remember to edit out that section. That would be embarrassing.
Yeah, that would be really embarrassing. Don't worry, pal. I'll remember to edit it out.
Woo.
It'll be gone like magic.
That was perfect.
He's just as cute as he is on the tube.
Cute? Feral, yes. Sexy, yes. Ronald Reagan is cute.
Oh, please, could I hold him just a minute? I'll be careful. Oh, he's heavy.
Husky, a bimbo.
His lips didn't move.
That's because you're not stroking my lever, sweetheart.
Magic was directed by Richard Attenborough and written by William Goldman. And it stars Anthony Hopkins as Corky, Ann-Margret as Peggy Ann Snow, Burgess Meredith as Ben Green, and Ed Lauter as Duke.
That's very good.
Thanks, man. I read it
On the Andrew subreddit.
I did. Yeah. Yep. I have 3 followers.
Oh, I'm not even one of them.
Nope.
Who are they?
I have 3 different accounts.
Oh, that you just follow yourself on?
Yeah. It helps me feel good about myself. So
I actually heard that Anthony Hopkins wants to follow your subreddit.
Boy, that'd be cool.
Yeah. Anyway, everybody out there, if you have not seen the 1978 film Magic, we're about to spoil the entire movie.
Mm-hmm.
So this is your warning, because we're about to do a 3-minute recap, and the 3-minute recap spoils the entire movie.
Oh boy.
As you know, the 3-minute recap, Andrew and I do it from memory. We don't read notes. So if we get anything wrong during the 3-minute recap, that's part of the fun.
Mm-hmm.
Right, buddy?
Oh yeah, dude.
So
yeah,
I'm going to start rolling the 20-sided virtual die.
Mm-hmm.
And you tell me when to stop. If it's odd, you're going to do the 3-minute recap. If it's even, I'm going to do the 3-minute recap. And I'm rolling it. It. It's 18. I'm doing it.
Yes. And just as a reminder to you,
yes,
I have actually started doing a little bit of ventriloquism. And
wait, how does your hand motion go?
Like
this? Is that ventriloquism?
Yeah, it's I
actually-
use two puppets.
It actually looks like Andrew's typing on a typewriter with both hands, and that's his international hand signal for ventriloquism.
It is. It might be American Sign Language, but I doubt it. But anywho, lately though, as I've been practicing, I've been kind of hearing some stuff in my head that says, it just keeps saying like, over 3 minutes, kill Scotty. Over 3 minutes, kill Scotty. So I don't know what's happening, but I would say try and do it under 3 minutes. I don't know why.
It's almost as if the voice in your head that you use to do ventriloquism is taking over your psyche.
It feels kind of weird.
And that's it. That's a 3-minute recap. I just did it.
Yeah. It's pretty good.
No, okay. You ready?
Yes, whenever you are, my friend.
I got you for 3 minutes. 3 minutes of playtime.
Magic is about a man named Corky. Corky is a failing magician. He's trying to make it big. He's the protege, but his mentor, Merlin, is on his deathbed, and he's telling Merlin how he's lying to Merlin about how he performed at a show and he did it, but then the truth comes out. He actually bombed really bad. Merlin says, use your charm, kid. Then we cut forward. It seems to be about maybe a little over a year later. Now Corky's drawing a huge crowd into the same place he bombed earlier. His agent's there, and his agent's brought in this television scout, and Corky comes on stage. He starts to do the same magic thing that's going on, but all of a sudden somebody in the audience says, starts heckling him. And he says, you want to come up here and blah, blah, blah. So he goes and he gets it. And oh my God, it's a ventriloquist's dummy named Fats. So Corky is a ventriloquist now, and he uses magic to introduce his ventriloquism. And back in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, ventriloquism and magic were big. So his agent's trying to get him on TV. His agent actually pretty much succeeds and invites Corky to lunch to tell him about it. He says, all you got to do is do this and have a doctor see you. And Corky says, nope, no way. Not going to have a doctor see me. And his agent's like, oh, what are you going to do, kid? So then Corky leaves. His agent calls him, and his agent's still like, I just need you to do this one thing, kid. Just see the doctor. And Corky's like, I'm not going to do it. And he kind of freaks out, gets in a cab, drives off to the country. After checking out his childhood home, where I guess he was raised in a foster home, it seems like, he ends up at this lakeside cabin resort thing that's pretty empty, except for Peggy, who is taking care of these cabins during this time. Maybe it's the off season, I think. I don't know. Anyway, so Corky ends up staying there. Turns out Peggy is a girl he had a crush on when he was in high school. Turns out she kind of wanted him to let her know, but he never knew that, crossed signals, and she ended up marrying the school jock, Duke, who is not there at the moment. At the same time, Corky has brought Fats with him. He brings Fats the dummy everywhere, and he's constantly talking to Fats. And Fats is talking back to Corky. Of course, it's Corky talking to himself through Fats. He brings Fats and introduces Fats to Peggy. He starts talking to Peggy. They find out they had a crush on each other. He ends up doing a magic trick for Peggy that's really stressful, yells at her, all this stuff. But you know what? Guess what? She still sleeps with him because she's in a terrible relationship. Her relationship is abusive, and so she's looking for a way out. Here comes Corky. And even though Corky's not all there, she's willing to leave Duke for this nice guy who's about to hit it big on major TV with this ventriloquism act. But then Corky's agent shows up, and his agent shows up right when Corky is arguing with Fats or himself, whatever. His agent's like, hey, kid, do me a favor. Go see a doctor. Get some help. And Corky's like, I'm not going to do it. And he says, do me a favor, kid. If you can make Fats shut up for 5 minutes, I'll let the whole thing go. No doctor. Corky says, okay. Corky doesn't make it. Spoiler. So his agent, Ben Green, is about to leave, and he's actually leaving, and he's going to get help for Corky. Corky doesn't want help. Fats tells Corky he needs to stop the agent. So Corky kills Ben Green, seemingly, by bludgeoning him with Fats the dummy. So then afterwards, he then drags Ben into the lake. Ben actually isn't dead right away, but then Corky drowns Ben in a little scuffle. He gets all cleaned up. And then, bam, Duke comes back early. Oh, my God. So now Duke's there at the cabins, and Corky and Peggy are trying to hide their love for each other. But then one thing leads to another. Duke finds out that Peggy wants to sleep with Corky. She doesn't find out the truth that they actually did sleep together. Duke takes Corky out onto the lake, and you think maybe Duke's going to do something bad, but no, he's just going to cry a little bit to Corky and say, I'm losing her. And then Corky's like, you're not going to lose her. Well, then, guess what? They find Ben Green's body on the side of the lake. And Corky starts acting like he doesn't know who this guy is, that this isn't Ben Green. Ben Green's actually a tall guy. He's lying his ass off anyway. So then Ben, when Corky goes, I forget where, Ben goes into Corky's cabin, but guess what? Only Fats is in the cabin. Ben goes up to Fats because Fats, I think, was he talking to Ben, I think, or something?
He moves.
Yeah, that's right. He moves. So Ben goes up to Fats. And then Fats stabs Ben a bunch of times with a knife. Guess what? It's actually Corky. Corky's behind Fats, behind a curtain. But it is a creepy scene. Then Corky acts like he doesn't know where Duke is. He tells Peggy that Duke's gone hunting and that she should leave with him right away. Peggy's like, I'll leave with you, but I want to wait till Duke gets back and tell him to his face. Guess what, folks? Duke doesn't come back because Duke is dead and in the lake, seemingly, I guess. And then there's this great moment where Fats tells Corky the only way out because Corky tells Fats, and again, he's talking to himself here. Corky tells Fats that he's going to go away with Peg. Fats, in an amazing scene, shows Corky that he is in control. And then he tells Corky to go kill Peggy. Corky goes over to Peg's house. You don't know what's going to happen. And then you go back to Fats, and Corky comes back in with a bloody knife, and you're like, oh, no, what did he do? Well, guess what he did? He stabbed himself in the stomach to kill himself so that he wouldn't kill Peggy. Then he dies with Fats next to him. It's a scene. And then at the end, Peggy is coming up to his cabin, and she makes a little joke in Fats's voice, her doing Fats's voice. And then that's actually how the movie ends. You know that Peggy's about to go into the cabin and find Corky dead, and then she's going to figure out that Duke is dead and everything, and that Corky was crazy. And the credits roll. That's the end.
Man, just under 3 minutes, so we do not have to worry about it. That was perfect. Yeah.
Wow.
just, man.
Amazing.
Yeah, you got lucky. I'll say that.
You got lucky.
Oh, what was that?
I was trying to do a Fats voice, but
don't become a ventriloquist, pal.
I know. I plan not to.
I'm just kidding. You can. You're perfect.
Honestly, if Nickelodeon won't even have me back, then what chance do I have of being a ventriloquist?
I don't think you want Nickelodeon back.
Yeah, that's fair.
Anyway, Buddy, this is a movie from 1978. As we mentioned in our last episode, you picked it because of serendipity.
Yes, that's very true.
Because it had been on your list for a long time, and then you saw that I had bought it on Apple, and I had bought it because I got the soundtrack, and I felt like I wanted to watch the movie again before I listened to the soundtrack, blah, blah, blah. But you ended up picking the movie.
I did.
So I'm actually very curious, my friend. What did you think of Magic?
This is tough because I liked it. I did. And there's some really great scenes, which of course we're going to talk about. However, some of it really dragged for me. And there was moments where I was like, I'll have to think about it. But I mean, there was moments where I was like, okay, let's keep it going. But I feel like those really great scenes outweigh the parts that I was bored at, or, my mind was going. So I liked it. But I want to discuss more about it because I know anytime you and I talk about a movie, I always like it even more by the time we're done.
Unless I hate it.
And that's true. Unless you hate it, then yeah, that's fair. But yeah, well, let's find out, I guess. What did you think of this movie?
Well, let's not get to that yet,
Okay.
because I'm still curious about some things.
Okay.
Before you watch this movie, what did you know about it? And then what surprised you about the movie?
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, definitely. So I didn't know anything about it. I knew that there was a creepy dummy,
Right.
which is kind of a, I guess, infamous dummy. It's on the cover, and I've seen it on other things. I mean, it's kind of a known dummy, I guess. But that's about it. And that Anthony Hopkins was in it. So it felt like 2 wins for me. That's all I knew, though.
Did you think that there was anything supernatural about it?
Yes. So that was the thing that surprised me, is I did think that it might be supernatural. And even when we see Fats kill Duke, I was like, oh, okay, it was. And then it was kind of a good rope-a-dope. I actually really liked that scene. But I'm fine that it wasn't supernatural. I'm just fine with it. But I did think going in that it might have some supernatural elements to it.
Because I was going to ask you if you were disappointed at all that it didn't turn out to be a supernatural story.
I wasn't.
Okay.
Nope. Yeah. What about you, though? Did you like it, but also did you know much about it? I know you'd seen part of it before.
First of all, I love this movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. When I watched it again, though, it was interesting because, man, I have an interesting relationship to this movie, it turns out.
Okay.
I told you last episode, I wasn't sure if I'd seen the whole thing.
Right. Yes.
But when I watched it, I realized that everything seemed familiar to me.
Okay. Nice.
But I remember, so I was very, very little when this movie came out.
Right. Okay.
And I remember back then not knowing whether this movie was about a dummy that comes to life or about a psychological thing, which is what it is about.
Right.
I didn't know that the movie pretty clearly shows you that Corky has a mental problem.
Right.
That the dummy is not alive.
Right.
So when the Duke scene happened, I was like, that's creepy, but Corky's controlling Fats. I can see the curtain. He's behind the curtain. Let me just say that I liked the movie a lot. And then when I watched it a second time to take notes, I realized I loved it even more.
Ah, right on.
I just think this is a fantastic movie. It really showcases one of my favorite actors in the entire world, Ed Lauter.
Burgess Meredith. Yes.
You got heart, kid.
You got heart.
Wait, that was Ed Lauter, right?
Yep. Definitely as Duke.
Anyway, yeah, I guess let's kind of get into this because to me, this is almost a 5-star movie for me.
Nice. Okay. I like that.
You said it dragged for you a little bit.
It did. And I don't know if it's, I don't know if it's just story or time period maybe, or I don't really know, but something about it. There's just moments where I was like, okay, I'm ready to move on.
How many sittings did it take you to watch it? 2 or 3?
3. It was 3 technically. 3.
See, I kind of noticed that because, I can tell sometimes when you're watching one of the movies.
Yeah.
And I saw you watching it the first night you started watching it, and I saw that it was like halfway through, and I was like, oh, but then it stopped, and the next morning it was still halfway through.
Yeah.
And I was like, aw. And then I noticed when you picked it back up and started watching it, and I don't like, this is just, I just happened to see it in continue watching.
Whatever, stalker.
I know, right? I know. And then you kept going from that to Showgirls, which was really weird.
Well, it's just one of my favorite love stories. Second to Deliverance.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a great love story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Anyway, what else? Was there anything else you didn't care about for this movie?
There was honestly the one scene, and I know you discussed it, but it just bugged me, was when they do when he does the trick with her, Snow.
Yes.
What's her name?
Peggy,
sorry. Yes. When he does that trick and he's like freaking out on her and he's yelling, he's like, do it again. And then right afterward, he's like, I did it. Like, I finally did it. And he's like weeping and she's like, oh, good for you. Like, and I'm like, he just yelled at you. Like, this guy clearly just showed that he is having some issues. He is not right in his head. And then she just like, oh, good for you. Let's go to bed. Like, I mean, immediately. And I was like, what? What? So that scene really bugged me. I just sat there like,
So a couple things about that.
Yes, please. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, no, number one, I mean, it bugged me too.
Okay.
Let's just get that out of the way.
Mhm.
But number one, we live in a different time now.
Right.
We live in a time when mental abuse, verbal abuse like that is called out more easily.
Right.
I think back in the 70s, abuse such as that towards women wasn't exactly called out the way it is
Right.
now.
That's true.
I mean, I've seen Saturday Night Fever, which is a beloved movie, and there is a scene near the end of that movie that makes me think, as much as I liked all the disco stuff, I'm never watching that movie again.
I've honestly never seen Saturday Night Fever. I know the disco scenes, but I've never seen it, so I don't know.
If
that
you ever
scene.
watch it, just don't watch till the end, and you're fine.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah, no, I'll just say it rhymes with grapes.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah, and it's not exactly. I'm not going to get into Saturday Night Fever. Yes, I am.
Fair.
Because it's not exactly the rape in Saturday Night Fever. It's how it's depicted and the lack of consequences from it. But
Okay.
it is also a sign of how women were treated in movies and such in the 70s.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, it's
Yep.
much different than it is now.
Right. Right.
So there is that, and that doesn't forgive that scene.
Right.
The thing that does make that scene more understandable is the fact that you have to realize that Duke is abusive himself.
Right. Right.
He drinks to excess at times,
Right.
which we get hints of.
Mm-hmm.
So the abuse that Duke gives her, if Corky gives her a little bit of verbal abuse, sadly, it's probably still better than what she gets from Duke.
Right.
On a regular basis.
Right. I mean, yeah. It's just a unfortunate scene.
It is, and it's hard to understand it. It's hard to
Right.
understand that this wouldn't be an immediate red flag.
Right. Right.
For her. And red flags like that kind of were different in the 70s than they are now.
Yeah.
So it's just
true.
It's one of those signs of the times.
Right. No, I get it. I just sat there like,
Me too, buddy. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Anyway, other than that scene, I guess I know. I'm going to ask you.
Yeah. And
I think he mentions it, but remind me, why did Fats show up? Why did the mental health issues kind of show up? Or are they always? I feel like Fats says something about it. I can't remember. Like, hey, this is. I don't know, but I feel like we never really, and we only saw a tiny bit of him at the beginning of. So we didn't really necessarily see the health issues, mental health
What's your
issues.
question, Andrew?
Why did he show up now?
I'm not sure. I think like you kind of said or alluded to, I think Corky had mental issues from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I think those mental issues are why he wasn't able to really succeed with his magic act alone.
Right.
Because we see a couple of hints of Corky's mental issues at the beginning of the movie. First, he lies to Merlin.
Right.
Just straight out lies to him. He eventually tells him the truth, but yeah, at first it's just all lies and stuff.
But Merlin kind of calls him out too, because he's believing it, but then he gives him a look and goes, "What really happened?" or something like along those lines.
Well, it seems like Merlin knows Corky better than most people.
Yeah. Yep.
Also, what really happened is that Corky failed at this act and people were kind of laughing at him and bored. And then he yelled at the audience.
Yeah.
Which kind of reminded me of, in a way, not the same thing, but I don't know. This movie kind of reminded me of Joker.
Yeah, for sure.
And while people say that Joker was inspired by King of Comedy and Taxi Driver,
right,
I'd like to go back and see if it was inspired by this movie at all as well. Kind of seems like it.
I could see that for sure. Absolutely.
But yeah, so Corky had issues. It seems like he just found a way to channel his mental instability into this dummy and make it a show.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
Real quick, some behind the scenes stuff. This is
Yeah,
really
dude.
cool stuff. So when this movie was getting made, not obviously, but it's adapted from a book
Right.
by William Goldman, who wrote the screenplay as well.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. And William Goldman wrote The Princess Bride, of all things.
Oh, awesome. I did not know that.
Yeah, and the first director that was attached to this movie, I'm not sure if it was the first, but one of the first directors was Norman Jewison, who also directed Fiddler on the Roof and In the Heat of the Night.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He wanted Jack Nicholson to play Corky.
Ooh. Oh, interesting.
But Jack Nicholson did not want to wear a hairpiece. So he said no.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's wild.
Then Steven Spielberg expressed interest in this movie.
Oh my gosh.
And he wanted Robert De Niro to play Corky.
Whoa, okay. Wow.
But eventually Richard Attenborough, and do you know who Richard Attenborough is, right?
I do, but remind me, because I know the name.
Well, he's directed quite a few things. He directed Gandhi. He directed Chaplin.
Oh, right. Okay.
But he also starred in Welcome to Jurassic Park.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
Him. That's
I
him.
did not know that was him.
Yeah, that's Richard Attenborough.
What? That's wild.
The late, great Richard Attenborough, who I not recently, but last year saw in The Great Escape. He was also in The Great Escape, and he's wonderful.
Was he really? That is wild. I haven't seen The Great Escape in a long time. It's a great movie, though.
Great movie.
Yeah.
Laurence Olivier was originally supposed to play Ben Green.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
He wasn't able to do it, so Burgess Meredith was hired. And Burgess Meredith modeled his performance after a legendary agent of that time, Swifty Lazar.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I've heard the name. I don't really know who Swifty is, but I've heard the name. He's a famous agent in Hollywood.
That's funny.
But the thing is like, I'm so glad that neither Norman Jewison or, I hate to say it, Steven Spielberg did this movie, because Richard Attenborough got Anthony Hopkins in this movie.
Yeah.
Anthony Hopkins actually studied ventriloquism and magic.
Oh, good for him. That's awesome.
So he learned how to throw his voice. That's his voice as Fats.
Is it really? I wondered that. I was very curious if that was him.
Yeah.
That's cool. Wow.
Which I absolutely love, because throughout this movie, when Fats is talking, quote unquote, a lot of times you see Anthony Hopkins, like his throat muscles moving.
Yep. I caught that as well, which I appreciated. Or even hit the bottom of his lip every once in a while would kind of do like a motion. I was like, oh, good.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. I like that little detail. That was nice.
Now, I was going to ask you this. I know you did your little typewriter hand signal for ventriloquism earlier.
Yeah.
Did you ever try to learn how to do ventriloquism ever?
No, dummies scared the crap out of me as a kid. I hated dummies. And we had one in our basement, and I did not like it. And I never, ever tried because it scared me. Wow. So it just sat there in our storage room, always sitting.
Where is it?
Oh, man. It's either somewhere in my dad's house or it was sold. I don't know.
Ask your dad, because if it wasn't sold, I want it.
Okay, I'll find out. I will find out.
God.
I'm curious. It was a little creepy little guy. And I feel like it may have, don't quote me on this.
You're on a podcast. You're quoted.
Oh, shoot. It may have been like a Howdy Doody one, but I don't think so. I don't remember. I just know it was like, I remember exactly what it looked like, but oh man, that thing scared me.
Everybody listening, do not quote Andrew as saying it may have been a Howdy Doody type dummy. Do not quote him.
Don't do it. I don't want to get sued.
I'm gonna write it in quotes for the description of this episode. It may have been a Howdy Doody type thing.
Wow.
Andrew Hilliard, 2024.
I'll be on my tombstone someday.
So ventriloquist dummies were always creepy to me as well, but it was kind of like that creepy clown thing where they're creepy, but I'm fascinated by the creepiness.
Yeah, totally fair.
I have creepy dolls in my closet. In fact, do you remember Bob?
Didn't you hang him from the ceiling? Was that Bob?
Let me tell you a story, young Andrew.
Yes.
But yes, you're correct. Because one day I was in Toys R Us. I was buying Final Fantasy either 8 or 9 for PlayStation 1.
Nice.
Wow. I remember. I don't remember which
That's
Final
awesome.
Fantasy it was, but it was one of them.
That's awesome.
As I'm in the checkout line, I hear this woman behind me, and she's like, "Oh, God, look at that ugly doll." I look down, and there's this little baby doll with a dirty gown on. It had definitely been on the floor a few times at Toys R Us. It had gone through the ringer. But the face on this doll was mid crying. So it's like this like wide open mouth, eyes squinted shut, crying.
Oh my gosh.
And it had a little plastic hook hanging out of its head. And its hair was all disheveled, just sticking up in all places. In fact, I'm going to do you one better.
Yeah, man.
I just described it for all the listeners, but I have Bob right here.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing. That mid scream is amazing.
It was the creepiest looking doll, but instead of turning it into something scary, I bought Bob right there. I don't think the cashier even knew how much Bob was because there was no price tag. So I just bought it, I think, for $5.
Perfect. Yeah.
I brought Bob home and I put a hook in the ceiling near my door and I hung Bob from the hook. Not in a bad way, like I'm hanging a baby.
Right. No, there's a hook in it. Yeah.
There's a little plastic hook in Bob's head.
Yep.
Her name is Bob, by the way. It's a girl.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah.
And it's so good.
It is good. What's crazy though is they probably never even sold that doll. That came from like hell or something and showed up in Toys R Us, and you're like, that's mine.
Except I turned it into something positive.
Fair.
In my mind, in my little superstition, Bob hung from my ceiling in front of my front door to ward off evil.
Oh, I like it.
So Bob to me is not something scary. Bob is something positive. It's a positive demon warding spirit.
It's a protector.
It's a protector. Bob's a protector.
Wow. Good for Bob.
Good for Bob.
Good for Bob. Good girl, Bob. Good girl, Bob.
So anyway, yeah, we're just going way off tangent, but it's all just to say that I find ventriloquist dummies fascinatingly creepy, but I love them.
See, and I was scared of them because, well, a couple things. One was the Goosebumps TV series.
Right.
There was a Night of the Living Dummy 2, but it wasn't even the main dummy. There was a scene, and I'll never forget it, where the main dummy gets other dummies. They're all they're not alive, but he just hangs them around this room and like puts them in all around and hangs one off of a ceiling fan. And that ceiling fan one was the one that scared me. It just was creepy. Also, Hayden Christensen is in that episode, and he's like 12. So if you want to, and it's ridiculous. So if you want to watch a pretty awesome Hayden Christensen at 12, do it.
That is an absolute coincidence because I was just watching a YouTube of Hayden Christensen yesterday.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love it. But the other thing I wanted to say, and off topic, well, no, it's not, is dummies scared me. There was an episode of Seinfeld.
Oh, okay.
Of all TV shows, and he had a dummy named Marbles, I believe was the name. I've only seen this once. It scared the heck out of me. But the dummy itself looked creepy, and at the very end of the episode, when they do kind of like as the credits are rolling, and Jerry's like afraid of it too. Jerry's always asleep in his bed. He wakes up, and you see the shadow of the dummy walking towards him, and he goes like Marbles, and it ends like that, and that scared the crap out of me as a kid. It was horrifying.
Isn't it funny what scares us as kids?
Seriously.
That scared you, and it's just Seinfeld.
Yeah, exactly. It's, a show about nothing.
And when I was a kid, Saturday Night Live, I think, did a parody of horror movie commercials, like slasher commercials. And it was like, I feel like it was a guy with a smiley face, a big smiley face. And that scared the hell out of me. And I think it was just a comedy parody of horror movie commercials.
Wow. Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah,
our imaginations, man. Me too.
Are we talking about a movie here?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I love the design of Fats.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Yes.
It's so good. It's supposed to look a little bit like Anthony Hopkins.
Mm-hmm.
And you see some similarities here and there, but I love the moment at the end when Anthony Hopkins is standing behind the wall outside of her bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And at that moment, I'm sure it was on purpose, but Anthony Hopkins looks more like Fats than at any other time in the movie.
I totally get that. Yep, for sure. There was another moment, too, I loved where the camera is kind of doing a turning, like around Anthony Hopkins, or he's turning, I don't know, but his face aligns essentially with Fats's face, like the what do you call that? Like the side view of your face. Well, I just moved away from it.
It's called a profile.
Profile, yeah, the profile. Like we just see like a little. Was that the part?
Are you talking about the 5 minutes scene?
Yeah.
That scene is one of the most brilliant scenes in movie history.
It's great.
To me, watching it a second time this past week, it really hit me that, okay, so for everybody out there, it's the scene where Ben Green, the agent, is in Corky's cabin.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells Corky that if he can make Fats shut up for 5 minutes, he'll believe that Corky is okay.
Right.
And Corky is sitting there. He says, oh, I can do that easy.
Yeah. I can make him quiet for 5 years.
Exactly. And then he has a hard time doing it. And I love Anthony Hopkins acting in this scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you can see how uncomfortable he is while trying to maintain the illusion of being comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, how long's it been? And Ben Green says, coming up on 30 seconds. You know?
Yeah.
But there's the moment you're talking about where the camera pans over to the left and Fats's profile comes into view.
Right.
And then Fats is completely in front of Corky's face. Like you see Fats and you don't see Corky anymore.
Right.
It's obviously symbolism, right?
Right. Oh, yeah.
Because at that moment, you're seeing Fats take over Corky's persona.
Yep.
Without seeing it, with just imagery, you know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And I love that. And then we have the moment where Corky says, I can't do it. And he grabs Fats and just goes off. Like he's just going crazy.
Yep. Yep.
Oh my God, such a great scene.
It is. And it was, I mean, both he and Burgess Meredith were great in that scene. But I mean, Anthony Hopkins, you can't take your eyes off of. He just.
Right.
And I love too that, like you said, I mean, just his nervousness. But I do want to know how long it was, because to me, it felt longer than, like when he says 30 seconds, I was like, that can't have been 30 seconds, but maybe it was. I'm curious. I almost want to time it just to see how long it had actually been. And I know he's probably doing it to, you know, Burgess Meredith's character is probably doing it just to see. But I mean, I don't know. I'm curious how long it had been.
Well, once again, back in the 70s, 80s, we had these things where there were countdowns and timers, and they didn't line up. And audiences got smart to that. I remember my Uncle Michael talking about that at one point when I was a kid. You remember these little conversations you hear from your adult peers. And I remember him talking about James Bond movies where the timer's counting down, but the time does not equal the same time or whatever, however I'm trying to say it. But then audiences got smart, and now it doesn't always happen, but more often than not, if you time things in movies these days, they try to make the time equal.
That makes, that's fair. Yeah.
But in this case, I wouldn't be surprised if they specifically made it longer than 30 seconds just so the audience feels what Corky is feeling.
Right. That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, that's good. I like that.
I also love the scene when Peggy comes to Corky's cabin for the first time, and then she's walking away, and Corky goes to look out the window, and he's got Fats next to him.
Yeah.
It's just an iconic shot of Fats and Corky both looking out the window.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to talk more about Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah, man, please do.
Because not only did he play a ventriloquist so well, he made, and actually, I don't know how much of this was Anthony Hopkins and if they did any of this with behind the scenes stuff. But the thing that really impressed me about this movie is all the scenes where he's holding Fats and Anthony Hopkins is acting, right? He's acting towards and talking to whoever he's talking to. But at the same time, Fats is like doing little subtle movements. He's blinking and he's like looking over. His eyes look over to Corky, and he's just doing these natural things that a person next to you would do.
Right. Yeah.
And it
That's
kills
true.
me. It kills me. The scene at the end when Peg is inside Corky's cabin. She's brought over drinks because she doesn't want to drink alone while she's waiting
Right.
for Duke. And this is where Fats, again, going back to your magic scene where he blows up at Peggy,
Mm-hmm.
Fats admits to Peggy that it's all an act,
Right.
that Corky was acting like it was a strain to figure out which card was hers, but he had looked at it, and Fats tells her all this. And as Fats is telling Peggy this, I was watching Anthony Hopkins acting.
Yep.
There are some performances in movie history.
Mm.
They deserve the acclaim that they've gotten. I don't think Anthony Hopkins in this role specifically has gotten the acclaim that it deserves. I think this is honestly maybe one of the best acting jobs I've ever seen in any movie, period.
Nice. Yeah. No, I agree. I definitely think it does not. Because like I said, I mean, I didn't really know much about it, and I love movies, I love cinema. And I feel like, yeah, this is one that should have had more. Oh, have you ever seen that one with Anthony Hopkins? He's great in it. You know, I mean, I agree with you. I think underrated for sure.
It's something that is amazing on repeat viewings because you start to watch the subtleties and you see how Anthony Hopkins is acting as two characters at once.
Yeah,
he's
dude.
acting as Corky, but he's also acting as Fats. It blows my mind.
I love it. It makes me think, though, like you said, just going back to different actors. I mean, Jack Nicholson would have been great, but I feel like with Anthony Hopkins, I mean, this was made for him. It almost feels like this was his role. And like how, like you said, how he plays. I mean, it's just perfect. So, yeah, Jack Nicholson would have been great, but it wouldn't have been the same.
I think Nicholson would have done what he did with The Shining, which is great, but you would have felt that he was crazy from the very beginning.
True.
And I think if Spielberg had done it with Robert De Niro,
right,
instead of getting somebody, I don't know that Robert De Niro would have actually learned ventriloquism.
Right. Yeah.
I think he would have done it like you would expect ventriloquism to be done in most movies where they just have an actor up there. You can see that their lips are not moving when the dummy is talking because they dub the dummy in later.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
But in this movie, every single scene that Fats is talking, you see Anthony Hopkins acting like he's a ventriloquist. And I'm sure they dubbed a little bit of it later, but in the moment, you see his lips, you see him acting like a ventriloquist acts.
Right. Yep.
Freaking brilliant. I love this.
I know. It's awesome. It was awesome. He's fantastic in this. And I will say, it did make me laugh. And I think it's because we know Anthony Hopkins and have watched his career and seen all of his movies. So I know him and have seen him grow, obviously, in what I've seen. And obviously, he's kind of an older gentleman now. Yeah. And so when they keep calling him young, I still see kind of older Anthony Hopkins. And I'm like he is young. He is young, I mean, in this. But I keep seeing like the older one. I'm like, oh, he looks like older Anthony Hopkins to me. Not like a little, the way they say like kiddo, and I'm like, well, but of course at the time he is, but I've just seen him older. So that sticks with me.
Yeah. I think Corky's supposed to be in his 20s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also Ann-Margret.
Yeah, dude. Oh yeah.
I got to say, I love Ann-Margret.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah.
If I was an adult back in the 70s, I would have had a huge crush on Ann-Margret.
Yeah, dude.
I love her voice.
Yeah, she's got a great voice. Oh, man.
Yeah. The one thing that did confuse me, though, I don't know if you noticed her very first moment in the movie when she's sitting inside her bedroom, I think, and looking in the mirror.
Right. Yes.
Or it's one of her very first moments. She had prosthetic eyebrows.
Oh, really? I did not even notice or look at that.
Maybe it's my TV, and you have maybe a smaller TV.
Yep. Yeah.
But on my big ass TV, you could definitely see the line of the prosthetics for her eyebrows. And they weren't in the entire movie, but they were in the beginning, and I could not find anything. I looked up prosthetic eyebrows in Magic and Margaret, couldn't find anything.
Weird.
So if anybody out there has ever heard trivia on why Ann-Margret had prosthetic eyebrows at the beginning of Magic, please let us know.
Yeah, that's wild. I wonder if she played a character before that or something, maybe without, I don't know, maybe sick or something that didn't, I don't know. I'm curious. I'm very curious.
Yeah.
Huh. Wild. That's weird.
Love her voice. Also found out that she's still alive.
Yeah, I looked that up too. I was very curious. Yep.
So that's awesome. Her and Anthony Hopkins are still living.
Yep, that's great.
Is Ed Lauter still living?
No, he died in 2013, I think. I mean, it was almost,
Right.
2013.
Wow.
And then Burgess Meredith died quite a while back. I don't know when, but
he'd be like 150, right?
yeah. He's still in one of my favorite Twilight Zone episodes, Burgess Meredith. Time Enough at Last. It was my mom's favorite episode.
I think that's the last Twilight Zone episode I've watched.
Really? Oh, it's a great episode.
I own them all on Apple. I even have the Blu-ray box set, but yeah, the last time I watched a Twilight Zone episode, it was that one.
That's awesome. That was always my mom's favorite, so I like that one.
One other thing that I want to bring up about Ann-Margret that really isn't a critique or anything like that, but I just thought was funny. Again, this is a 1978 movie, right?
Right. Yeah.
I think it's the part where Duke has come home and she goes to Corky's cabin and she's outside and she's telling him. And Corky says, does he have a telescope? And then Corky starts saying, I take my coffee black and I adore you.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes.
I just love that her line after that, as she's walking away, she's like, aren't you ever something?
Yes.
Nobody says that anymore, but I really wish they would.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we need to bring this back.
Andrew, aren't you ever something?
Scotty, aren't you ever something? Wow. Another quote for my tombstone.
Yes.
He was ever something.
Basically, what'll happen is, Cindy will be next to you, of course, but I'll be on the other side of you.
Yep.
And our tombstones will be like touching.
Yeah, obviously.
And your tombstone will say, aren't you ever something? And then my tombstone will be like, no, you're ever something.
Ooh, I like it. And I feel like we'll get the tombstones that are curved at the top, like circles, so that it kind of creates a heart, since we'll be right next to each other.
Let's just bury Cindy somewhere else.
All right, I'll talk to her about it. It's going to be an awkward weekend for us, but I think she'll come around.
In fact, if I get my wish, you and I won't even be in a cemetery. We'll be in the middle of a cornfield.
The one at my wedding?
Yes.
Yes.
And nobody will know that there's two dead bodies out there until they're just like, except for the farmer, because we don't want him to run over our tombstones.
That's right. Yeah.
But people just be walking through the corn rows and then, oh my God,
right.
There's two graves out here with tombstones. Isn't he ever something? No, you're ever something. Wow.
Amazing.
Oh,
boy.
What'd you think of the music?
I actually do remember the music on this one, and I liked it. I did like it. Yeah, it was that harmonica, man.
Right?
Yeah, dude. I feel like that was like the theme, or I don't know what you'd call it, but it just, anytime there was that something creepy with Fats, you hear that harmonica go, or something creepy, I guess I should say, with Corky.
Yeah. Corky and Fats.
Corky and Fats. But yeah, but I did like it.
That harmonica, to me, especially listening to the soundtrack in my headphones later and watching the movie a second time, I started to realize that the music was portraying the schizophrenia from the movie, because you had these beautiful strings, this nice orchestral score, but then this harmonica would come in that you mentioned.
Yep.
This disjointed harmonica, and that to me was Fats coming into the score.
Totally. That's good. I like that.
And yeah, the score is great.
Yeah, it was. And now I get why you got it and wanted to listen to it.
It's not why I got it. I had no idea. I didn't know what it sounded like. I just knew here was the soundtrack for this old movie, and it's Jerry Goldsmith.
Nice.
It's probably good because it's Jerry Goldsmith.
Right.
And it's not available anywhere else. So I'm going to buy it, and then hopefully it's really good.
Is the record, does it have Fats on it? What's on it?
It's got a different cover, and it's like kind of Fats with like the shadow of Corky behind Fats' face.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I like that. I'm just curious.
I love the ending where music-wise, because like I mentioned in the 3-minute recap, she's out. She's waiting for Corky. She's changed her mind basically because Corky.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go backwards. So Fats has told Corky that he has to kill her.
Right.
After this amazing scene where Fats demonstrates that he's got control over Corky.
Yeah, dude.
Let's talk about that scene real quick.
Yeah, please.
He makes Corky do things. He makes Corky crawl on the ground and smile and do all these weird, crazy things.
And then provides him with like the most intense headache he's ever had. And he's like, do you want that for 100 days, 100 times worse? He's like, no. It's so good.
It's amazing. And you really start to feel like Fats is a separate character.
Totally. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But then you have to remember that this is just Corky and his own mind doing this to himself.
Right.
I guess it is schizophrenia, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So then, Fats tells Corky, he says, pick up that knife.
Oh,
and
yeah.
This is another brilliant moment in this movie. I love this moment. Corky picks up the knife and he's just doing all these things that Fats is telling him to do. But when he picks up the knife, he says, don't do it.
Yeah. Yes.
Don't do it. And he's telling Fats not to make him kill Peggy.
Yep. Which again is perfect because it's all in his head.
Oh, it's so amazing.
Yeah.
So then we go into Peggy's house and she's in her bedroom, sitting in her bed. She's pissed off at Corky because he admitted that the card trick was exactly what it is. It was a trick.
Right.
And it was an act.
Right.
To get Peggy to like him more.
Mm-hmm.
But then Fats's voice is at her door.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we know that it's Corky and she knows that it's Corky, but it's Fats. And Fats will not let Corky talk.
Right.
Because he's saying things and she's like, cut it out, Corky. And he's like, it's Fats.
Mm-hmm.
And finally she gives in. She says, okay, cut it out, Fats. But then after some conversation, he's like, I'm going to go away. And then she's like, you really have to go away. Like, I can still hear you behind the door. And then she opens the door and there's the little carved heart, which from earlier in the movie, Corky had said that he had whittled this wooden heart for her, but then he threw it away when she stayed with Duke or whatever.
Right.
Well, he never threw it away. He had it all this time. He was in love with her. And he leaves it at her door.
Mm-hmm.
So then that's when we go back to the cabin. He comes in, bloody knife, and we find out that he stabbed himself instead of Peggy.
Right.
So that's why Peggy is going to the cabin, because the heart, she realized that he's had this heart since high school, that he's in love with her.
Right.
And she's decided, yes, I'm going to run away with you.
Yeah.
And in a very strange moment, she says, let's see, I think I wrote it down. Yeah, she says, you may not get this opportunity tomorrow. And she does it in her own Fats's voice, and she doesn't say freaking.
Right.
We're keeping it family friendly here, folks.
Yeah, man.
Then the movie just kind of ends, and it's so bleak because you know that he's dead inside.
Mm-hmm.
You know that her ex-husband, now ex, that Duke is dead in the lake. You know that Ben Green is lake, and she's there by herself, and her life is about to become horrifying.
Yeah.
Or she's going to be set free because the two abusive men in her life are now gone.
Right. Yeah. I will say one thing I wanted to jump to, though. I love when Corky comes in after he, quote unquote, kills Peggy.
Her,
at least, what Fats thinks. I love when he comes in, he's kind of holding his stomach. And I love that Corky's like, that Fats is like, my stomach hurts. It's like, it feels, or whatever.
Okay. You reminded me of something.
Oh, okay.
Did you notice that when he came back to the cabin, he's talking in Fats's voice, and when he throws his voice to Fats, Fats has more of the Corky voice now.
Oh, no, I didn't even catch that.
Yeah. Every single time Anthony Hopkins talks out of his own mouth, he's got the deeper, I think my stomach hurts. And that's why it sounds like Fats is saying it, but when Corky talks, he's like, what have you done? And he's got like a high voice like Corky.
Nice.
I'm sorry, when Fats talks.
Right.
But yeah, they've kind of, so it shows that they've switched places. He's fully become Fats, and now Porky is the ventriloquist dummy.
Nice.
But he maintained control enough of himself to stab himself instead of Peggy.
Yeah. Man.
It's freaking amazing. This movie is pretty amazing.
It is. No, I agree. And I think, like you said, I mean, the acting in this is phenomenal. It's got a great score. Yeah. And those moments were fine, like the moments that were a little slow, but really, like I said, I think the good will definitely outweigh what bothered me.
And to be fair to you, I think I did fast forward through a few bits my second watch when I was taking notes. I think I fast forwarded through a few bits. I was like, yeah, it might be a little long. I still think it's brilliant. And I could rewatch this pretty soon, actually. I could rewatch it. But I could see very much that there are just a few places where it gets a little long.
Yeah. Yep.
But what I was going to say before, and I think we can end on this note, is that I love the way the music score comes in during the end credits after that moment with Peggy.
Oh,
and it just has this such a bleak, sad, lonely sound to it.
Yeah.
And then the harmonica as well coming in, and it just leaves you with such a weird feeling at the end.
It really does. Yeah. Just so abrupt too. Just it's over. It's like, oh gosh. Ugh.
And actually, I did have a couple of small little, basically things that I wanted to bring up before we get to 3 questions. I also love the moment and going back near the beginning of the movie when they're in the dressing room.
Oh yeah.
And Ben Green has brought the TV exec in. And after they leave, they're looking in the mirror.
Yes.
Fats and Corky are looking in the mirror, and Corky, with Fats' voice, says, "We're gonna be a star."
Yeah.
I love that. And also, I want to go back because I actually asked you earlier if you ever tried to be a ventriloquist.
Yeah.
And we kind of got off on the tangent of creepy dolls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The reason I asked you that is because there was a time when I actually bought a book on how to be a ventriloquist.
Really?
And the part of the movie that really reminded me of that is after the TV exec and all that, Porky is in his hotel room and he's practicing. And he gets to the word somebody. And he kind of says it, but then he messes it up and he's trying to practice it. He's like, and he's like, some duddy.
Yes.
And it reminded me that when you try to learn to be a ventriloquist, they tell you that, obviously you have to move your lips when you make a B as in boy sound. But you have to kind of disguise the sound as a ventriloquist. You have to use a D as in dog. So instead of somebody, you're actually kind of saying some duddy, son duddy. M as in Mary are N's as in Nancy.
Okay.
So you're saying son duddy, but you're saying it in a way that sounds like somebody.
That's funny.
I'm going off on a little ventriloquist tangent, but I remember trying to learn that and how difficult it was. So this is why another reason I'm so impressed with Anthony Hopkins and actually ventriloquists who are good. Yeah, I'm impressed with in general because I tried to learn how and it's freaking hard.
Yeah. Oh man, I bet. Yeah.
And now I'm ready for 3 questions.
Let's do it.
Who would cross the bridge of death must answer me these questions 3.
All right, buddy. There are 3 kills in this movie.
Yeah.
3 deaths. So I'm going to ask you now question number 1. What did you think was the best kill or death in Magic?
I should probably pick another one, but I think just having that little rope-a-dope with Duke got me where I was like, what is this actually real? And then because I didn't look at the curtain behind him, so I was like, it took me a second. Then when you see him come out, I was like, okay, nice. I liked that. That was good. So I just it got me.
That's actually really good, and it's probably the one I would have picked as 3rd in my list of favorite kills in this movie. But I do like that kill because he stabs him once, but then I like the way that Duke actually falls onto the knife.
Yeah.
And then as he's fallen, the knife scrapes against his throat. But then we also have Ben Green, who was actually bludgeoned with Fats the dummy.
Who Fats tells him to kill him with him.
Yes.
Which is wild.
Yes. With me.
With me. Yeah.
But then I also love the fact that, you're like, did he really die from being bludgeoned? But then no, he wakes up when he's being taken out to the lake.
Yeah.
And then, he gets drowned.
Yeah.
But then, I don't know, the romantic in me loves the fact that Corky overcame Fats just enough to kill himself instead of killing Peg.
Right.
Or Peggy.
Yeah.
I do like that a lot.
Yep.
It's actually hard for me to pick, man.
They were all three really good. I know this one, like I said, I feel like I should have picked a different one, but that one just stuck with me. It was just like, oh, they got me.
I think if you had asked me first, I would have said Corky.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that you picked Duke made me think about that. And so I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. And I mean, to have someone beat nearly to death by a dummy is, I mean, that's pretty intense, man. That's a wild kill, sort of,
So I think for this one, we're just going to go with your answer.
Okay.
So.
Yay, I did it.
You're the boy of the hour.
Yes. No, I'm the doy of the hour.
Doy? Did you just say doy?
I did, like a ventriloquist. Call back.
Question number 2.
All right.
Do you think magic is scary?
I don't. And that's, I mean, ask me that question if you could have asked me that question when I was 10, it would have been a very different answer. Now it's not scary, but if someone does have an issue with dolls or dummies, I could see people being a little creeped out by this movie for sure. But for me, it's not scary. You?
That's fair. I think this movie was probably pretty frightening in 1978.
Yeah. Yep.
I honestly don't know because I was pretty young, but I don't know how much of a mystery there was in the movie as to whether Fats was a supernatural alive dummy or whether it was all in Anthony Hopkins' head. That's how it seemed to me in my young age, but I was very young, so I don't know.
Right.
To me now, no, it's not scary at all.
Right.
But yeah, that's about it. It's a little bleak, though. It's a little bleak.
Yeah, for sure.
Number 3, Andrew. Did you have fun with horror?
Overall, I did. I did have fun with horror. Yes. Yeah. It's a really well-made movie. The acting's incredible. Music's great. Directing, everything. Like I said, I already said my nitpicky moments, but yeah, it's fun. And did you have fun with horror?
Abso-freaking-lutely.
Whoa. Scotty, where'd you go?
Scotty's not here anymore.
Oh, no.
My name is Skinnies. The opposite of Fats. Get it?
Yeah, no, I got it. Skinnies. You sly dog.
Skinnies.
Oh. Bring Scotty back. I'm scared.
Hey, kid. I'm going to ask you to do something. It's a little something anybody ought to be able to do. Now, if you can do it, fine. We'll forget this whole thing. But if you can't, we'll think about getting you to see somebody fast. Is it a deal?
Name it.
Make Fats shut up for 5 minutes.
Andrew, I'm back. It's just me.
Oh, thank God. I was so scared.
No more Skinnies the dummy.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you for coming back. Okay, buddy. We jumped back in time a bit for my movie, and pretty bleak one at that. But I'm curious what your movie is. I may know, I may not, just because I saw a recent purchase, and I'm not sure we're doing that one. I really don't know. So I'm very curious what you're picking, if it is that or if it's something that I have no clue. But I'm excited. What are we watching for our next episode?
Well, now I have to look at my recent purchases.
I can tell you right now if you want, or we can.
No, don't tell me because I'm going to lead into this.
Okay. All right.
I think you also know what this is. It's not going to surprise you.
Okay.
Last week was my birthday.
What?
And a very special boy in my life. We like to call him Young Andrew.
Oh, yeah.
He bought me a shirt for my birthday. Now, here's the thing, Andrew.
Yeah.
This is very debatable whether it's a horror movie.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But in this very large series of films, when I saw it, I felt like it was maybe the very first movie that could have been considered horror.
Okay. All right.
in its way.
Nice.
Have you seen any Godzilla movies ever?
I mean, I hate to be this guy.
No, be honest.
No, I saw like the American version in the 90s.
The Matthew Broderick version?
The Matthew Broderick one. In fact, I had an action figure of Godzilla from that movie. It was pretty cool.
What did you think of that movie?
I liked it as a kid. I think as an adult, I might be different thoughts, but I haven't seen it since. And then I've also seen the one with Bryan Cranston.
Okay. Godzilla 2014.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, and I did see the Kong versus Godzilla, which wasn't
Okay.
But that's it. I mean, I've never seen like the like original.
Hey,
I feel like I should say real Godzilla movies.
we're not critiquing all those amazing movies, okay? So
All right.
keep your opinions to yourself for now,
Okay.
pal. Because our next movie is Godzilla -1.
What?
And again, it's kind of questionable whether it's a horror movie, but I wanted to talk to you about this movie.
Yeah.
Okay. I rewatched this movie a few weeks ago.
Nice.
And during the movie, I said, I want Andrew to watch this movie. And actually,
Okay.
I would love to talk about this movie on the podcast because there's a lot to talk about.
Yay. Okay.
Also, I wanted you to see this brilliant Godzilla movie.
Right. Yeah. Man, everyone kind of raves about this movie, so.
Which means you'll probably hate it.
Stop.
But enough people put it at the top of their lists of best horror movies of 2023 for me to go ahead and just reach a little bit to pick it.
Nice. Okay.
It may not be a horror movie to everybody, but it's enough of one and it's adjacent enough that I just want to do it on the podcast.
I will say though, man, I feel like when you're talking horror, there's types of horror. You know, you got slashers, you got this, that. But I feel like, I mean, monster movies are their own genre of horror. So to say Godzilla's not a monster, you know, I mean, I feel like it works, man. Even though I haven't seen this, it's a monster movie. That's a genre of horror, dude.
And we'll get into it next week.
Yeah.
Why I'm okay considering this movie for the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Or not next week, next episode.
Right.
So we'll be back in 2 weeks. And we're going to talk about Godzilla -1. And everybody out there, real quick, I just want to say, if you go and watch this movie on Netflix, you're free to watch it however you want, but please watch the Japanese version with subtitles because the American dubbed version is just not as effective.
Right. Yep.
In fact, I've heard people say, you know, it was okay. And then in their next breath, they're like, I watched the American dubbed version. And it's like, well, that's why it was just okay.
Yep.
It kind of loses something. But it is on Netflix, everybody. So go watch it there if you want. But again, I think Netflix even defaults to the American dubbed version. So just change the audio to Japanese and the subtitles to English. And there you go.
Yep. No, I agree. Especially we did a movie. Quarantine? Was it Quarantine, right?
Wreck.
Or Wreck, right. Quarantine was the American version, but Wreck. Oh, rough.
Yeah.
Rough.
Everybody,
with the American dub.
Do not go listen to our old episode on Wreck because we had no access to the original Spanish version.
Right.
We had to watch it with the English dub, and it affected our opinion of the movie. And I think that's probably a really good movie.
I agree. I think it would have been a great movie, but the dub was rough. Rough, man.
So you understand when I tell you to watch Godzilla -1 in Japanese?
I do. Yes, that was the plan. Right when you said it was, yes, absolutely in Japanese.
I'm also wearing the shirt you got me right now. So
yay! I was hoping you'd like that, man. I really was like, I just felt like that was the one. It's a pretty cool shirt.
I'm just impressed that you got me a shirt I didn't already have. So
that was my other worry. I was like, oh, I'm gonna get it, and he's probably gonna already have it. That was my concern, but I'm glad he didn't. Yay!
But anyway, everybody out there, thank you for listening. As always, thank you for staying with us this long.
Yes,
where we can say anything and nobody's listening, so we can say poop and pee and all kinds of horrible things. And
in fact, if I say poo poo pee pee to my son, he laughs. So maybe I'll have him listen to this part.
I mean, I do too.
I mean, what's not funny about poo poo and pee pee?
Giggle, giggle, giggle. Everybody say goodbye to Bob. Go join our Patreon. Go find us on social media. And thank you so much. Everybody out there, we love you.
We love you.
And remember, if you join our Patreon, we will give you a personal I love you right here on the podcast.
That's true. Just like this. Scotty, yes. I love you.
Andrew, I love you.
Wow. It's a lot of love.
Goodbye.
Bye.
It's magic.
You have nothing to fear but fear itself, nothing to give but blood, sweat, and tears, nothing to lose but your chains. Here he is, boys. Here he is, world.